It's time for a scary good edition of NHL Wraparound Short Shifts Halloween 2025. Vic and Neil looking our best, or in our case, probably our worst, to commemorate this day. So all week since our show last Friday, I'm trying to picture in my head your costume that you said that you were going to dress up as daylight savings time. So I went on Amazon, couldn't find anything. So want to know how your search went in terms of getting a costume that resembles the end of daylight savings time on Saturday.
Well, you know how the hands of the clock are going to fall back Sunday at 2 a.m. But my hands are not going to fall back. And that's my costume. I put my hands in front of my chest and leave them at daylight savings time.
That's very clever. You know, in terms of trick-or-treating, and we have a bunch in our neighborhood, and I never really loved it. And one year I wanted to go out, put on my roller skates, because I played a lot of roller hockey at the time, and go around the neighborhood, no costume. And I got scolded by Mom. She said, you know, I'm giving out candy. You go get yours. So.
And did you eat it? Like, because I was always worried about my figure.
You all know how that must look now, too. So.
Well.
All right. So let's get started. We're not doing the trick-or-treat thing. We're going to do a lot of a good news, bad news theme, because Thursday, maybe we want to call Bachman-Turner overdrive here, because they were working overtime. 6 out of the 11 games went to overtime or a shootout, but we're going to start with one of those that did not. Good news. The Pittsburgh Penguins atop the NHL standings. They are 8-2-2 after a 4-1 win over the Minnesota Wild. The bad news, the Wild are 3-6-3. Got one win in their last 9. And this was supposed to be a feel-good season for them because they shed the dead cap space from Zach Parise and Ryan Suter and signed Kirill Kaprizov to that extension, $17 million a year, effective next year. How much patience is Bill Guerin going to have with John Hines?
And how much patience is the ownership, Craig Leopold, going to have with Bill Guerin? I'm not putting this on Bill Guerin. I love Bill Guerin. And I don't know about John Hines, but, you know, the worst thing you can do is play poor at home. That's what you don't want to do, is play bad in front of your home fans. They're 1-3-2. One win in 6 games are the Minnesota Wild, and they're a -15 in goal differential so far this season. And as I've said to you before, if you've got a $17 million player on your team, you should win every game.
You should be putting up 135 to 150 points. Kaprizov does have 7 goals, 16 points thus far. But you got to remember something. It's going to start getting late early, not only for them, but a team like the St. Louis Blues also. Those were the 2 wild cards a season ago. And you got to remember, Utah has gotten better. Anaheim has gotten better. Chicago and San Jose are both improving, even though I don't think we see either of those clubs making the playoffs this year. But you fall out of this in the early part of the season, and with some of the iron in that conference, I'm talking about Vegas, Colorado, and Dallas, and Winnipeg, it is going to be tough to climb up that ladder when you start to get into the second part of the season.
12 games into the season for the Calgary Flames, I think we can wave the white flag on them already. They're playing .250 winning percentage. And so you talk about it's going to get late early for the Calgary Flames, who have, again, only won 1 game at home and only won 1 game on the road and only won 2 games total. It's really getting late early for them, and that's just the obvious one. You're right. These teams that are taking it on the chin right now, these points mean just as much now as they're going to mean in April. And so we say this every year, that bad starts can put you out of the playoffs.
You take a look at the standings for those two clubs, and they are at the bottom of the Central Division. Good news. New York Rangers overcome a 3-1 third period deficit and win 4-3 in overtime in Edmonton on a goal by JT Miller. The Rangers are winless at home, but 5-1-1 on the road. Maybe they want to take a page out of the 1950 finals when they had to play all 7 games away from Madison Square Garden. Bad news. The Oilers' inability to hold the lead, lack of forecheck and neutral zone pressure. Yes, they're missing Zach Hyman still for about another week, but you can see this club is missing the grit that they had with Corey Perry and Evander Kane last year. For some reason, they opted to keep Trent Frederick instead of players like Connor Brown. And Evan Bouchard, absolutely dreadful, a -3 on Thursday, had 2 turnovers leading directly to Ranger goals and kind of gave a real half-assed effort on Miller cutting into the net on the overtime winner. He's got a goal, 7 points, and a -9 this season. So these are significant problems that we are seeing in Edmonton right now. This club, as we speak, does not have the components to return to a final, as we say today.
Of course they don't. And their goaltending is far from their biggest problem, which is all we talked about for the last 2 years, is that they didn't have the goaltending to win it big, even though they went to Game 7 2 years ago and then it returned to the final last year. There's a lot of different problems going on in Edmonton, but at the top of the list is the Pillsbury Doughboy, which is Evan Bouchard. And I call him that because he has more turnovers than Pillsbury. And he has been god-awful. He's making $10 million a year. I watch the games, and I don't even see him reacting to when he makes these blunders. It seems like goes to the bench, and it's another day in Hollywood. So I don't get it, but you're right, Vic. They're going nowhere fast, playing the way they're playing, and they're not the same team that we've been watching the last 2 years.
I know that they were hoping for some additional offense from Isaac Howard, Matthew Savoy, and that really hasn't materialized either. And I just watch how difficult they are to play against. And superstar quality aside, because we talk about that ad nauseum, they're not a hard team to play against.
They should have found a way to keep Connor Brown. I'm sure if you talk to Stan Bowman and the management, they'll tell you all the reasons why they couldn't keep him. He wanted too much money. They didn't have the cap space, whatever. But he is a valuable member now of the New Jersey Devils, and he could be a valuable member and was a valuable member of the Edmonton Oilers. So to let him walk out the door, I think is a blunder. Even though you're going to have all kinds of reasons why you had to let him go and he didn't want to stay and blah, blah, blah. He's a pretty good part now of a pretty good team in New Jersey.
Next item. Good news. We just mentioned Corey Perry. He scores twice within 40 seconds with the goalie pulled to force overtime for the Kings against the Detroit Red Wings. Perry has 5 goals, 7 points, and is a +7 in 6 games. Remember, he started the season on injured reserve. The bad news, the Kings had 2 goals disallowed, one on a borderline high stick and the other on goalie interference in overtime on Kevin Fiala, as the Wings won 4-3 in a shootout. How about Corey Perry? This guy just keeps continuing to spin magic, even at age 40.
And one thing that must be really ironic for people who are NHL fans in the LA metro area, Corey Perry is a Duck and will always be an Anaheim Duck. He was one of their most valuable players in their Stanley Cup championship, as well as being a Hart Trophy winner one year that he played for the Ducks.
Yeah.
And now he's on their crosstown rival, LA Kings. He's seen both ends of this rivalry, although I've been at the games between the Ducks and the Kings. It's nothing even close to the Rangers and Islanders or Oilers and Flames. But in any case, it must be peculiar for Corey Perry himself to skate out there in the LA Kings uniform after so many years of skating out onto the ice as a Duck.
But he has had several stops in between Anaheim and Los Angeles, though.
Oh, many stops. It's just that I always think of that when a guy crosses to the dark side, whatever way that means, and plays for that rival, that hated rival. And Corey Perry's doing it now. And getting back to your point, which is absolutely well taken, 5 goals, 2 assists, 7 points, +7 in his 6 games at 40 years old. And that's why we needed to talk about him.
Mm-hmm. Think the Oilers could use him?
A lot of teams could use Corey Perry the way he's playing, but he's fitting in. And the big thing is for a guy that age is where does he fit? And he won't fit on every team.
The Kings aren't a favorite to make the final, but they're making the finals because Corey Perry goes to the final every year. So
that's right. So
good news. The Flyers are 6-3-1 under Rick Tocchet after a 4-1 win over Nashville Thursday. Trevor Zegras, second 3-point game, his last 3 outings. Is it the coach? Is it the goaltending with Dan Vladar? Or is it some of the Flyers' youth finally simply maturing? Players like Tyson Forster, Owen Tippett, Noah Cates, Bobby Brink, Jamie Drysdale. A lot of good going on there. Bad news. Captain Sean Couturier left the game in the first period after being hit by a Noah Yulson shot. A little bit of friendly fire there. But let's go back to the good news here. What is it in Philly that is making a difference thus far?
I think they've got some excitement going on there with the new coach. Zegras is putting up some numbers in that. But if you really watch last night's game, did they really play that well? I mean, they were being outshot a ton against a bad team in Nashville. I mean, yeah, they won. They beat Nashville. I don't think that's anything to start to plan a parade over.
It's not, but like so many clubs, such as Pittsburgh Penguins, in that Metropolitan Division, you're picking up points now that other clubs aren't. That says something, at least for the hope of a franchise that has not been in the playoffs for a number of years. You got to have something to hold on to, and both the Flyers and Penguins are doing that.
And the Flyers are dominant at home. They're 6-1. They've yet to get a win on the road, 0-2-1. Yep. So we'll see as the season goes on. But certainly you have to say and admit that a 6-3-1 start puts you in pretty good shape and a lot of optimism there that you could keep it going. There's .650 winning percentage. So they've won 3 straight. We'll see where they go from here.
Good news. In Wednesday, 6-3 Columbus Blue Jackets win over the Toronto Maple Leafs. Their third line, Cole Sillinger, Charlie Coyle, and Matthew Olivier combined for 11 points and a +13 rating after the 3 of them had only 7 points combined entering that game. More good news. John Tavares scores his 500th goal, becoming the 49th player in NHL history to reach that mark. Unfortunate news. That goal by Tavares made the score 6-2. And for anybody that watched that may have been the most subdued celebration for any milestone goal in NHL history.
Yeah, that was tough for John Tavares. You wish he would have got it in a win or maybe in an overtime win, overtime goal. Ends up getting it as a goal where you don't even want to put your stick up in the air because you're being pounded by the Blue Jackets. But good for John Tavares. He's had a great career to this point, and I just think he's a great Toronto Maple Leaf.
It was awkward because his teammates didn't know what to do because of what the score was. And he came over, sat down on the bench. Craig Berube, the head coach, put his arm around him. But certainly a player that has carried himself as well as Tavares has during the course of his entire career deserved a little bit more than that.
He did, but he's part of the team, and the team played poorly, so they got to take it on the chin. Mike Sillinger's son, Cole Sillinger, had a great game. And Vic, I drafted Mike Sillinger for the Detroit Red Wings in 1989.
From the Regina Pats.
And I signed Mike Sillinger in 2006 for the New York Islanders.
By the way, was that the same draft that George Armstrong showed his false teeth when they put the camera on him?
I don't know if it was the 89 draft. I know that when he did his whole denture plate out to the camera, he took some grief over that. I remember that. People didn't like that.
He sure did. Well, there's our Halloween reference for the show now. So there we go. All right, some other notable stuff. Jonathan Toews plays his first game against the Chicago Blackhawks. He had a assist, the 6-3 win for the Jets. Did you know that only 3 Hawks last night that were active actually played in the last game that Toews played with Chicago in April of 2023? That's only 30 months ago. Connor Murphy, Jason Dickinson, and Wyatt Kaiser. Arvid Soderblom and Alex Vlasic were also on the roster but did not play that night. But it is amazing the amount of turnover in Chicago that only 3 players remain from that last game that Toews played in the Windy City.
Vic, I'm surprised there's that many, to be honest with you. The way that team has played the last 2 years, I really am. I know that Connor Murphy's been around a long time, so that doesn't surprise me. As bad as the Chicago Blackhawks have been the last 3 years, I'm surprised there's that many.
Do you notice on this show that very often we continue to bring up century-old material?
Yes.
It's going to happen again. In St. Louis on Thursday, Canucks forward Kiefer Sherwood with a hat trick in the Canucks 4-3 shootout win over the Blues. St. Louis is 0-4-2 in their last 6. Sherwood, 9 goals, no assists, 9 points. I mean, you got to think you're going to get an assist by accident. You know, puck's going to go off your behind, off a skate, carry him to a teammate. Not so with Sherwood thus far. In case you were wondering, the all-time record for most goals in a season, or to start a season, without an assist, Canadian center Pit Lapine in 1926-27. Were you there?
No, I missed that game.
Do you ever think Pit Lapine was going to make this show?
No, I didn't. Good old Pitt. He's a good man, Pitt.
You got to remember also that back in those days, assists were probably given out less generously than they are today. But he finished the entire season without getting a single assist.
Wow.
New York Islanders forward Matt Barzal was scratched in the 6-2 loss for the Isles in Carolina on Thursday. How come?
He was late to the morning skate. Coach Waugh said to him, nope, you can't play. You're going to play tomorrow night in Washington, but you're not playing tonight in Carolina.
Serves as an example for the rest of the club. Morgan Geekie scored his 9th goal for the Bruins in a 4-3 overtime win over the Buffalo Sabres. He's in a 7-way tie for first in goals. This is the first year of a 6-year deal at $5.5 million. He and David Pastrnak combined for 16 of the 43 goals by the Bruins thus far. And he is certainly living up to his part of the bargain in the early going of this contract, because with Marchand gone, they were looking for somebody, somewhere to step up. And Geekie had a good season last year, and he's continuing it this year.
Yeah, he is. And he's making Don Sweeney look smart. on that signing. At least none of us could have predicted that he would have this kind of a start to the season. So this is why the Bruins have at least got some points on the board.
Let's talk more about signings, because there was another big one on Thursday. Avalanche forward Marty Necas, 8 years, $11.5 million per year, $92 million in total, $60 million in signing bonuses, full no movement clause in the first 7 seasons of this deal, which is effective next year. And something that I was looking at, that when you put that contract in the context of Mitch Marner and Kyle Connor, it appears to me, Neil, that the contracts that the forwards are receiving are somewhat in line with the current landscape, more so than the defensemen and what a lot of those players have been getting. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think the whole thing is absurd and out of whack, but they're falling in line, because I know how this works. The agent comes in and says, well, look at Marner's contract. Look at Connor's contract. Look at Kaprizov, what he got. We know that's crazy, but you know what? Our guy should get at least 11.5. I mean, I know how it works. It's all about comparables. And that's why I don't understand these contracts, because you're killing everybody else in the league by doing this. And I got to tell you something. There is no way that the Winnipeg Jets can take in enough money to pay Kyle Connor in U.S. funds the contract that they gave him. I mean, they're obviously going to pay him, but there's going to be red ink in the front office.
There's another piece here also, because you see a lot of these forward contracts now coming in, 11, 12, 13 million per year. And to me, it makes this Kaprizov contract look more completely out of whack than when he first signed it.
Agreed. He's a winger, too. He's not a big centerman that's going to dominate things like Leon Draisaitl. He's a winger. He's going to depend upon people getting him the puck. And he's doing well so far this year, don't get me wrong. But $17 million next year?
Injury update, and a couple of significant ones here. Seth Jarvis, Carolina Hurricanes, blocked a shot by Kyle Palmieri in the third period of the Canes' win. Shot hit his left foot or ankle, had to be helped off the ice. Coach Rod Brindamore said it didn't look good, but we should have more of an update on Friday. And I think you have an update right now.
He is on the ice in advance of the team's optional practice, skating in shorts and a red sweatshirt. What that means is only that he's out there skating. So it couldn't be the contusion that he took from that shot. Must be okay enough that he can get out there and skate.
Certainly good news for the Canes if he is able to go over the weekend. Maple Leafs forward William Nylander missed Wednesday's game in Columbus with a lower body injury. He is still feeling the residual effects of a hit by Jason Zucker Friday in Buffalo. Elias Lindholm, Bruins forward, left Thursday's overtime win against Buffalo after a collision with Jordan Greenway in the second period. Brock Besser, Canucks forward, left in the first minute of their game against St. Louis after being hit by an Elias Pettersson shot. He is now listed as day-to-day. And as a follow-up to another Canucks injury, Connor Garland, who was injured against the Rangers on Tuesday, did not make the start of the 3-game road trip that the Canucks are on, but the injury is not believed to be serious. Gustav Nyquist, Winnipeg, left after the first period of their win over Chicago. And this last injury happened the other night. Ethan Frank of the Capitals is on IR after attempting to hit Mikko Rantanen along the boards in the Caps' 1-0 loss in Dallas on Tuesday. This was not a reverse hit where a player spins backwards with force. Frank went to hit him and just hit a brick wall in Rantanen, who was considerably taller and considerably heavier. All right, Mr. Smith, any updates?
Nope.
Let's end this show on a work of art and a work of heart. And the work of heart is born out of tragedy. Brad Marchand missed the Panthers' shootout loss Tuesday to Anaheim to support a good friend, J.P. McCallum, who lost his daughter, Selah, after a year-long battle with cancer. Marchand served as a guest coach Wednesday at a fundraiser game for the U18 March and Mill County Hunters, of which Marchand is a co-owner. He is expected back in the lineup Saturday when the Panthers host Dallas. But a terrific gesture, and I think also great on the Panthers organization to understanding this and allowing Marchand the time to be with his friend.
Absolutely. And I think it's probably mostly Paul Maurice who would, stick up for Marchand and say, yeah, we got to let him go and go to this. This is important. And I'm sure Bill Zito felt the same way, but I'm just saying it. The coach is in charge of the players. So it would be Paul Maurice who would say, yeah, go ahead and go. So it's good on the hockey club. And it's also obviously good on Brad that he took this time to go and try to help his friend.
In honor of Nikita Kucherov's 1,000th point, a custom portrait was created by Barbara Hellman and presented to Kucherov prior to Thursday's game against Dallas. If you have not seen this work of art, you can see it on NHL.com. She used 12,000 dice, 40,000 painted halftones. It took her 130 hours to create this. It is an absolutely magnificent piece. So check it out on NHL.com. So, hey, games I'm looking at this weekend. Friday, Colorado plays at Vegas. This is a 4 o'clock game on a weekday. So I don't know if it's for Halloween or for what it is, but they are playing at 4 o'clock Eastern. And also the Islanders at Washington. Alex Ovechkin once again tries to become the first player to reach the 900 goal mark, which of course he can only be since he's the all-time leading NHL goal scorer.
And he tries to do it against Sorokin, who he set the record against.
On Saturday, 2 games I'm looking at. Dallas and Florida, simply because those are the 2 teams that I picked for the final. And Ottawa at Montreal. Those were the 2 wild cards in the East last year. Canadians off to a blazing start. Senators just trying to tread water until Brady Tkachuk gets back. I think this is going to be a terrific game on Hockey Night in Canada Saturday.
I think it's going to be one, too, that I'm going to be anxiously awaiting.
Sunday, a couple of clubs looking to push their way into the playoffs. I picked both of these teams to make it, Utah and Anaheim. Tampa Bay is visiting Utah, and New Jersey visits the Ducks. And I think this is a great test for both of these teams to see where they're at right now with 2 of the higher-end teams visiting.
It's a good measuring stick for these teams on Sunday. And you know what? We've got a lot of teams in the league that were bubble teams last year that are certainly not in the bubble this year at this point, at this early point in the season.
Sets up for an exciting weekend. A reminder that our website is NHLWraparound.com. All of our episodes are there, along with New York Centric, written by Patrick Hoffman. It's got pieces on the Devils and Islanders this week, as well as Neil's Nuggets and Smith's Picks with your lofty record that you're showing there.
Yeah, things are going pretty good at 55, 34, and 15.
And you'll be picking all 3 games on Friday. So the only way to find out where Neil is opting is to go on NHLWraparound.com.
And please, if you've got a chance, leave us a review. If you listen to us through Apple Podcasts, Apple has a review system there. Please click on review and give us a review. We'd much appreciate that.
Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll speak to you again on Monday with Short Shifts.